What's up guys, welcome to day 2 of the 7-day filmmaking challenge, and today we'll be diving into composition and camera angles, because no matter how good your settings are, if you don't know how to capture what's in front of you in a beautiful way, you'll have a hard time putting together a cinematic video. So we'll dive into our main 3 rules of composition, plus the 12 most popular camera angles you'll see in everyday films. Composition means the placement or arrangement of visual elements in a frame of video. The first and arguably the most important rule of composition is to fill the frame. One of the biggest ways to identify an amateur filmmaker is when they don't fill the frame, because it's not just what's in your frame, it's also what's not in your frame. And if your image has a lot of dead space or things that distract from your story or take the viewer's eyes off the subject, then you need to change your composition so that your subject is filling the frame, thus allowing the viewer to focus in on what you are trying to say. There are many quick fixes to easily fill the frame, like having a tight focal length that compresses the background, making sure you are close to your subject, or bumping your aperture down so that the background blurs out anything that might distract from your subject. Now, if you want a wide shot showing all the surrounding details, that's one thing. But if your shot is supposed to be focused on a specific subject, then you have 2 options: zoom in or get closer. The second rule is the rule of thirds. It basically means to chop your frame into thirds and put points of interest and importance on one of those lines. For example, you typically want your horizon to be on the top third or bottom third, depending on what you're trying to show off: the sky or the ground. With people, you want to try and keep them in one of the vertical lines and keep their eye line on the top third. You also want to make sure that your subject has lead room, aka space in front of the way that they are looking. And the third and final rule we'll discuss is to create depth. Depth helps bring your images to life and add emphasis and importance on your subject. Depth will help your viewer know exactly where to look and what to focus on during your film. The easiest way to create depth is to lower your aperture and then place something in front and behind your subject, thus adding foreground and background to what your viewers should be focusing on. Moving on, let's now talk about using those 3 rules with different camera angles. There are 12 main camera angles that you'll see every day in popular films, and I'll now walk you through what each one is and when to use it. First, you have the wide shot, typically captured on a wide angle lens to establish the location so that the viewer gets a good idea of where the scene is taking place. Second, you have the long shot, also used to establish the location, but with a bigger emphasis on your subject filling the entire frame, usually showing their full body. Third, the medium shot, typically from the waist up, done to help the viewer focus on what the subject is doing or saying. Fourth is the cowboy shot. This shot is in between a long and medium shot, used for when you want to show detail around the subject's waist. This shot was made popular by old westerns when they wanted to show off the gun on the cowboy's hip, hence the cowboy shot. Fifth, you have the tight shot, which is typically just the head and shoulders of your subject. This shot is used best to show off the expression or emotion of your subject, or to show off importance to a detail in your scene. And sixth, a detail or extreme close-up shot used to put an emphasis or importance on a very specific part of your image, which will help draw your viewer's attention to a common theme and help carry your story forward by piecing together details of that scene. Seventh, the low angle. This angle is used to portray your subject as larger than life and to show power and dominance. This shot can also be used to portray wonder, as long as your subject is smaller than what surrounds them in your image. Eighth, the high angle. The high angle does the opposite of the low angle, which makes your subject look smaller or vulnerable. Ninth is the Dutch angle, or the canter, which is when you slightly tilt the horizon of your frame to make it seem like something isn't quite right, like the world is on its side. 10th, the over-the-shoulder angle, used mainly for dialogue scenes to help the viewer feel like they are the one having the conversation. 11, the POV, or point of view shot. This type of shot allows the viewer to take on the perspective of the character to see what they are seeing, most commonly used in action sports, to help you feel like you are in the action. And 12th, the cutaway. This is an interruption of a continuously filmed scene by inserting a view of something completely different. Cutaways can be used to transition to a new scene. So there you have our 12 camera angles and 3 rules of composition to enhance your films. Great composition and a variety in camera angles, plus the knowledge you have about how to use your camera effectively will allow you to create videos that have a great arrangement of visual elements. So go out and practice. We've put a challenge at the bottom of this email, so be sure to check it out so you can apply what you've learned. And if you have any further questions, please let us know.